I have this later. But... Oh. Weird. You think that's really? Yes. I heard you had like people standing in the hallway. Waiting. It's like fire departments are here past capacity. Yes. But Janice did say that the one lady that came that got her app set up, got the kiosk, went away saying, I don't think this is an issue. She said, Janice said that that made her really on there. Yeah, well, she learned that she could use her handicap placard and not have to pay and not have to move vehicle either. Oh, I already know. Yeah, Janice didn't mention that. She was all excited. So that's, it was funny. They spent like half an hour with her, teaching her everything, and then she finds out she don't even need it. Well, all right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's one way. I am going to WebEx you in case we need it for the meeting, a copy of your ordinance. If we have to put it. Oh, okay. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hello.
These are transfers. We're not. I don't think that I know.
We only have one. Morning, Joyce. You can sit at the table here if you like.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
Right there. Hope I'm not disturbing too bad.
Yeah.
Too disturbing. Ordinance.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
Good morning, Brandon, Scott, Chris. Having a good summer so far? So far. Yeah, how about you? It's going fast. Yeah, it's pretty good. Not a whole lot to drink, but it is going fast. It's, yeah, every night. I mean, my grandpa always said that, years of like the sheets on a roll of toilet paper, the closer to being heat it, faster they come off. And yeah, that's true. When I went to, when I was in middle school, 4 years, it was, and it seemed like it took 12 years or decades to get through 4 years. And it's yeah, it really is fast. Too fast.
There's still a lot of, order power. I don't know. So that's what I can.
Yeah.
That's the big part of having order power.
Oh, yeah, I remember when we started 2 months into surgery. You are recording already. Yep.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Is Andrew on? Okay.
But it's not like. Well, you can roll it, three of them. But yeah, we both.
I just think it's.
I don't know. Oh, never. Are we muted? Oh, no. Well, good morning, Andrew.
Morning, everyone.
We'll look to get started in another minute or two. It looks like people are rolling in. With the majority of people looking like they're joining online, if you'd like to join the table, feel free to sit at the table if you'd like. Well, if you're going to be writing or taking notes and stuff. All are welcome. Huh. All right. Popular meeting today. I will say with all the meetings we've had with trash, and now this is kind of related to trash with composting. I used to think sidewalks were the most interesting, and parking was a close second, but I think parking and trash and refuse are by far a couple of the hottest topics that we have here. So it's good to get the word out. I was at a League of Wisconsin Municipalities meeting yesterday with Councilmember Greger, and a lot of our peer communities were talking about lack of involvement of the community in different issues where they have meetings and nobody shows up. And one person from a neighboring community to the east of us, they traditionally have one person that comes to every council meeting, and that's about it. And that person hard of hearing. So, so there were other communities that were asking if they could trade at times because they do have a few issues that pop up. But so, all right, well, we'll get started. Thank you everybody for attending online and in person. I'll go around. I'll kind of set what we were hoping to accomplish with the meeting today and do some quick. Do some quick introductions if you're not here from the public. If you're here with the industry or the city staff, introduce yourselves, and then otherwise, if you're a member of the public attending, don't worry about introducing yourselves. But we have a couple of council members that are sponsoring an ordinance change to help bring composting in Eau Claire up to modern standards. We haven't really changed anything with our trash or composting codes for a number of years. So council members Werthmann and Miller, and council member Werthmann is online, have a proposed compost ordinance that they've been working on, and legal's been reviewing. It's been to our sustainability advisory committee. It's started to go through some of the public process. It's scheduled to go to the city council for full consideration as soon as we feel it's ready. This meeting is one of those steps to make sure that we feel that it's ready and there's enough feedback for that. But likely it will be going towards the end of July, early August, or all in August. I think that it will be before council. When it goes to city council, there's a two-step process for our ordinances. The first set of meetings are what's called the first reading. And it's read at the end of our Tuesday meeting, but you have an opportunity to comment on it in our public comment period the Monday night before. So that would be the first publicly available comment period in the official legislative process for that. And then 2 weeks later, there'll be 2 more meetings, and on Monday, there'll be a officially noticed public hearing, and you'll be able to speak publicly at the public hearing on Monday, and then the city council will consider it for votes the following Tuesday. So that'll be coming up in the near future. This meeting is typically a meeting that we've had through the process between haulers, health departments, and city staff as we're looking at trash and compost, and hasn't been publicly noticed before, but since we're starting to get close to the vote, I wanted to be able to include the city council, all of the city council members, to be able to hear what the discussion is in advance of them considering the vote on it. So it's publicly noticed, so it is a public meeting, but it isn't technically an official public hearing for that. So what I'm hoping for the meeting to accomplished today is Councilmember Werthmann to speak on the composting ordinance that they will be introducing, what they're attempting to accomplish with it, some of the key points that the ordinance contains, and then allow for comment, sometimes concerns, discussion, questions from industry groups if there's stuff that just hasn't been thought of, or we're looking to get feedback of potential issues that could be solved now instead of being solved at the 11th hour when it's before the city council. If we have time, we'd like to have allow for some, a moderate amount of questions or comments by residents and members that are here, and then I'll try to wrap the meeting up. The meeting is being recorded, so it will be available and posted on the website if anybody would like to watch the meeting afterwards. And above all else, I really stress and we've had this in all of our meetings, a meeting of civility, professionalism, politeness. Everybody speaks one at a time. We're all in this together, even if we disagree. So we're in an education and trying to make things better mindset instead of an adversarial one with this. So with that, I'll start at least in the physical room with quick introductions, and then we can go online if people raise their hand if they're part of the industry. Go through that. I'm Dave Solberg. I'm the city manager for the city of Eau Claire.
Sure. My name's Brandon. I work for Neighborhood Services, handle code enforcement, and I'm also project manager of the trash study.
And my name is Blake Herbison. I'm the assistant city attorney.
I'm J.C. Mullen with Harvard's Expert Disposal.
Sarah Shapiro with Waste Management. Joy Phillips, City Council District 2.
I'm Ruth Hollander. I'm with Planning and Sustainability Intern for the city. I'm Stark with Chamber of Commerce. I'm Eric Devon from Chamber of Commerce.
I'm Nicole Berry, with the Health Department.
And if everybody else is our residents, we'll switch to online. And Julie, I don't know if we'll start with Julie.
Yes, Julie Ketchum, WM Waste Management. I'm the Area Director of Government Affairs, covering the 6-state area.
Okay, Tess Morgan.
I am Tess Morgan. I'm the Media and Communication Specialist for the city.
Scott Stencil.
Yeah, Scott Stencil from WM.
Chris Sattler.
I'm Chris Sattler. I'm with Harder's Expert Disposal. I'm the general manager for our Eau Claire hauling operation.
I think that's JC. Okay, Earthbound. Hello. JC.
Hi, this is Jamie Pappas. I'm with Earthbound Environmental Solutions.
And Jason.
Yes, hi, my name is Jason. Yeah, Jason Johns with Johns Law Office. I am the chapter lobbyist for NWRA's Wisconsin chapter. Thank you.
Evelyn with Volume 1.
Hey, associate editor here with Volume 1. As you said, Dave, great to be here.
I'm not sure who Anon is. Nobody. Okay. Andrew Werthmann.
Everyone, Andrew Werthmann, City Council. I'm one of the authors on the compost ordinance.
And then Diana.
Diana Siebels with WM.
Kate White.
Katie White, with WM, help on the lobbying side of things.
Micah.
Micah Hamstra, I'm in-house legal counsel for WM.
Okay, we have a good showing for WM. Antwi.
Hi, this is
I hope
Tybronna
I pronounced-
Antwi from WEAU. Yeah.
President Greger.
Yeah, I'm Jeremy Gregert, Eau Claire City Council President.
Oh, okay, keep going. All right, John Culbertson.
Yeah, hi, everybody. John Culbertson with MSW Consultants. We are the management consultant that is working with the city on a trash study. Happy to be here to observe.
Thanks, John. G Hub.
Greg Hubbard, sorry, Waste Management.
Okay, Mike.
This is Mike Steggy from GFL.
Okay. Avery.
Hi, this is Avery. I'm just a community member wanting to learn more.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then David.
Hello, David Pelletieri, President Pelletieri Waste Systems.
Okay. All right.
Chapter
Thanks
Chair.
for joining us.
Wisconsin NWRA. Thanks.
All right, Councilmember Werthmann, I think we'll turn the floor over to you.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks everyone so much for joining. To thank all the different folks here from the waste hauling industry. And I think first and foremost, just to share my appreciation for continuing this conversation that has already been happening pretty intensely over the past year, if not more, as we as a city council have been thinking about how to improve the trash system in our city and how it delivers for residents. And so this comes out of the compost ordinance that we've been discussing, has a history that I will keep brief, but starts probably about a decade ago in conversation. It has been a part of the sustainability advisory committee of our city's work plan, probably about a decade long now on their agendas. In the past couple of years, we've started as a city council to identify ways we would like to think about trash hauling and how to improve it. And compost has been a central part of pretty much every discussion that we've had at city council. Then on top of that, we have built this idea of composting into our sustainability plan, the Renewable Energy Action Plan of 2018, into our comprehensive plan as a city, numerous other plans. And then for this specific ordinance, the conversation started in winter of 2025 and has continued progressively until this point. I think we've had 4 or 5 publicly noticed meetings at the Sustainability Advisory Committee as we've begun to hash out. And I think the way I'd like to frame this is the fact that we right now send roughly 20 by DNR, Wisconsin DNR estimates, roughly 20 to 25% of trash that ends up in the landfill, organics. Is something we'd like to work on avoiding. Not probably. I think one of the biggest pieces of that is because, as we've seen regularly here, the more that goes in our landfill, the more often we have to expand it, and the entire process of expansion is costly. It's costly on residents. It's costly on haulers, and so we're trying to think about what are the different ways that we can divert organics from the waste stream. So this composting ordinance comes out of that field. It does a number of primary things. One is it sets up standards for different sized composts to happen in our city, everything from backyard composting to medium scale community composting that you might see at a church or at a community garden, a larger scale that you could imagine at maybe a university or other institution. And then in the past couple of weeks, we've added a tier, what we call tier 4, which is essentially 50 cubic yards and larger, upon request and recognition that larger compost piles are likely to be created over the coming years, and we want to give space for that. It then also looks at the prospect how to include composting at our city brush site at some point in the future with all of the safety and regulations in place to make that happen. And then lastly, it expands an option for residents to have composting with whichever waste hauling company that they choose. So, you know, when I think of this, I think it's important to point out that we kind of saw three paths in looking at how to bring or how to address the composting issue. So one path was kind of what we've had for the last 15, 20 years, which is the city staying, or the city council and the city staying hands off and seeing if industry would do composting on their own. And I would say over 15 years, there's been some success in Earthbound having brought that into their model. But, you know, that's probably less than 10% of overall household. So, you know, uptake has not been incredibly strong, but, you know, it's not nothing either. So I think from a policy point, it's the first option is probably that we do nothing as a city council. On the far other end of the spectrum is to look at what other communities across Wisconsin and across Minnesota, I'm actually in Minneapolis right now, what other communities have started to do, which is to mandate compost as part of coverage for households. So everyone who, you know, gets their compost, that have recycling also has the option of composting, and it's mandated. We decided to take a more middle track, and that is to look at this as an option that people can opt into with their hauler, not that they're mandated to. And the reason we thought that is a better track is because it takes a smaller bite of this apple. It allows a phase-in period. It selects people who are interested in doing it versus mandating that everyone do it. We think there's going to be better product if people are selecting to go in that direction. And so we sort of chose that middle route. And so after, you know, a good 15 years of seeing where the marketplace was going, discussions after many, many plans and meetings, we've chosen a pretty reasonable middle ground. And we wanted to have this meeting to kind of build on what is in the ordinance and some of the finer points of it. I think the last thing I'd like to do before handing it over is to recognize the incredible work. And I actually had a chance to look at GFL and waste management track record on composting, which is actually pretty incredible, not only across the Midwest, but across the nation. Both companies, which are major haulers, the largest haulers in Eau Claire, have already broken serious ground on thinking about composting services for residents, and really lean into composting as a key feature of something that they provide. And so that gives me hope that we're not trying anything new. And by us taking this middle ground, we're trying to meet what is already in the missions of these larger institutions that do trash and recycling for our community. So that's all I have for now. Happy to answer questions or to hand it back over, but I wanted to provide just a little bit of a context of all of the history that got us to this point, and appreciate this conversation to hear more from all of you as we go forward.
Thank you, Councilmember Werthmann. Jason, do you want to start with any questions you have, or any input you have from an industry standpoint? So assuming you're kind of speaking for them to start with.
Yeah, that's correct. Just want to clarify, I don't have any questions for the councilman at this time. I don't know if the Councilman Miller was going to speak. Otherwise, I will provide comments on behalf of the chapter, if that's what you'd like me to do.
Yes. Yep.
All right, very good. So as mentioned, my name is Jason Johns. I am the Wisconsin chapter lobbyist for the National Waste and Recycling Association. We do appreciate the opportunity to provide these comments on behalf of the members of the chapter regarding this proposed ordinance and the comprehensive organics management and composting. Bottom line up front is, we want organics diverted from landfills as much as everyone here does. And we share the same desire to lower emissions and encourage broad participation by the Eau Claire community. However, this proposal is not the way to get there. With that said, sharing the same goal is a great place to start in finding the right path forward, and we hope to be able to do so with the council and not against it. To do so, though, it's important we share our concerns today so that you have the perspective of the haulers who will be responsible for assuring a successful organics management and composting program is rightfully and well implemented. We didn't have the opportunity to do so in front of the Sustainable Advisory Committee, and we've not been able to participate in necessary formal analyses, which we normally would as conducted by municipalities when moving forward with ordinances such as this. But my goal today is to provide you with this information so that the end outcome is the best and most economically sound one for the residents and businesses of Eau Claire. So I'm going to just kind of go through some top item concerns we have. And if you'll allow me to do that, this is a mandate, and it could potentially double or even triple the collection costs for the residents and businesses of Eau Claire. The ordinance forces haulers to provide organics collection to all residents and businesses, and forces all residents and businesses to pay for the service, whether they use it or not. No opt-out, no choice. All residents will pay for a cart, whether they have a backyard compost bin or self-haul to a compost site. And regardless of whether they ever put a single organic item in their cart, they will pay for that cart. Requiring separate organics collection for each customer will mean they will need an additional cart, another truck to empty the cart, another route and driver for the additional truck, another set of equipment at collection sites to accept the organics, and another back office admin to oversee the transfer from the collection site to a processing facility. The same everything that is necessary for garbage and recyclable collection. This would require rate averaging rules. The proposed ordinance prohibits us from charging separately for organics and must spread the cost of collection and processing across every customer, even those who never utilize the service. This would effectively result in rate setting for private companies that aren't utilities without the participatory process actual rate regulation comes with, and without assurance we will recover our costs. If this issue is not addressed, legal implications will arise. State preemption. Wisconsin deliberately does not regulate private waste haulers like it does utilities. This is done to allow pricing to be dictated by the market. We encourage the city's legal counsel to review this issue in depth, as dictating our internal cost allocation pricing may very well go beyond what the city's licensing power allows. This too will likely have legal implications. Sorting and source separation. The proposed ordinance places responsibility on the hauler to assure the purity of the organic stream. However, it is the customer who decides what goes in the bin. The hauler has no control over this. Contamination is unavoidable in curbside collection, yet the proposed ordinance, excuse me, provides no right to reject or tag a bad container, no tolerance level, and no safe harbor for the haulers. And please do understand, the industry will not put our employees at risk by asking them to manually sort through a cart at the curb, looking for items that should not be there. Clear education to residents and businesses will need to be developed by the city, and it will need to pursue diligent follow-up and, when necessary, specific enforcement measures. Infrastructure gaps. The proposed ordinance requires haulers to collect the entire broad spectrum of organics, including, without limitation, meat, fish, and dairy. Organics that require specialized facilities for proper disposal. Although Earthbound Environmental Solutions does operate a specialized facility in the area, they have informed me that they would need adequate lead time provided in order to accept the exponential increase in collection of organics. Lead time to assure necessary staffing, acquire additional equipment, and time to get that equipment online. This all should be predetermined by the city through conducting a formal analysis prior to moving forward with this proposed ordinance. Discretionary approval standards, schedules, container methods, service plans, notices. They all need city approval. Yet the proposed ordinance provides no criteria, no timelines, and no mechanism to appeal a denial. Our industry will be fearful to make the significant capital investment necessary to provide adequate organics collection services when these rules could change at any time, for any reason, at the city's sole discretion. Our members are private, for-profit businesses, and this would not be a good business decision. If the choice is between providing organics collection services under these circumstances, coupled with a high likelihood of not recovering the upfront costs of adding trucks, hiring more labor, expanding operations, meeting maintenance needs, versus ceasing operations in the city of Eau Claire, the choice will be clear for most, if not all, haulers. Privacy and trade secret concerns. Enforcement of the proposed ordinance will require the city to collect customer names, addresses, and billing information. However, nothing in the proposed ordinance sets forth how this customer data will be protected. Customer lists are recognized as trade secrets, and Wisconsin's public record laws could potentially expose these lists. Before it can proceed, it is vitally necessary for the proposed ordinance to contain a data governance framework. As I noted in the beginning of my comments, we share the same goals and want to be on the same team to successfully achieve them. So how do we proceed from here? Slow down. We respectfully request you withdraw the proposed ordinance from the City Council's July 14th agenda, where it is to receive its first reading. Do it right. As soon as schedules allow, schedule an informal working session with our members who provide services to the City of Eau Claire or may do so in the future. Our members have real-world operational experience with residential and commercial organics. We are confident we can amply work together to develop an ordinance that meets and ideally exceeds the city's diversion and participation goals without the potential possibility of doubling and tripling the cost. And as important, an ordinance which resolves and or avoids the extensive list of concerns I've set forth to you today. Thank you for the time to hear from me and providing the opportunity to be heard. My members and I stand ready to answer any questions you may have. I look forward to working with you to develop a truly impactful and successful comprehensive organics management and composting program for the City of Eau Claire. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Jason. For the, I don't know, Councilmember Werthmann, did you have any questions at all of Jason? Otherwise, the next step, I would solicit some feedback and comments or questions from local industry and residents that are in attendance.
I think one question to get more clarity on is right now in Eau Claire, we have 3 or 4 different companies that provide waste management services to residents. Earthbound is only one within that group who currently provides composting services as well as the normal recycle. But their business model, and granted they're a small business, but their business model, their price to stay within the range of reasonably other while still providing that additional service. And so when you share that it would double or triple the, I'm just curious about that, because right now in the marketplace, there's virtually no difference between different haulers, including one that already provides coverage.
Yeah, I can address that kind of in general. And the fact of the matter is, you're adding an additional, completely new collection service. And as I mentioned in my comments, your additional trucks to meet the demand. You have to hit that same route another time. You have to make sure you have another driver to cover that route, or additional labor time of an existing driver for the additional route. You have to talk about the admin of it all, the equipment, the time to lead up, to invest in the proper way to collect this and to get it done. So that's where, when you look at that from a cost perspective, and we don't have an exact number, right? Not knowing the exact numbers in Eau Claire. So I don't want to say that's an exact, but we are confident in saying that it possibly could be double or triple the cost. It's certainly, if nothing else, it will be a significant increase to the cost for customers in Eau Claire.
Great. Thank you for that. Any of the local attendees here from the local industry have any comments or anything they would like to say before I open up to resident? Anybody have? Yeah.
Hi, I'm JP with Carter's, and I've been doing the garbage thing here in Eau Claire for quite some time. I originally started box transportation, then I worked with GFL for a brief moment, and then out of rage and spite started trash on trucks. And it's very hard to run a garbage company and have an open market, and Eau Claire is rare in that case. It's a gem in this instance. You have a free market, you have an open market. Small little people, little nobodies like me can start a business, pick up your trash, and do it within reason. And it is incredibly hard, and I'm a single mother, so I have a son, and decided to prioritize my family over growing and scaling, because there are some things that matter, and it's here at home. And with the outlook of, okay, I want to champion the local trash, obviously. And everybody here, all these haulers are my friends, which is rare too. Sarah, Sean, I don't know where he is, Steggy, Statler, everybody, we all get along, which is a rare thing. And I think what is happening is, in this trash conversation with the composting, the city does have a pretty big deficit, and we do have some pretty big other problems that I feel are a priority over what's in the, I mean, not necessarily more than anything, but like what's in the landfill and taking care of that. And you're right, 25% of food ends up in the landfill, and 20% of it is just plastic. So are we going to ban the plastic? Are we going to do that? And then there's like 5% of it that ends up being the furniture. And we've had some really great conversations about trying to keep bulk items out of the landfills and these kinds of things. But the point is, the free market is here. The open market is here, and capitalism isn't bad if you keep it local. Once you determine that one big person can do it better than everybody else, you are eliminating smaller players from the game. You're eliminating us from being able to gain customers because we're good at it. And you're kind of saying, well, you have to do this because the city is doing this ordinance, everybody needs to pay for it. And It seems like there's a lot of people that already do it. We already have a garbage company here that does composting wonderfully. Their Facebook page is insane. Earthbound is phenomenal. They work with all kinds of people and we love them. People call us at Harders and they want to compost. We send them to we send them to Earthbound happily. There are things that they can do that we can't, and we all have a really good working relationship in that aspect. And if this was a water company, I feel like I'd be doing the same thing. Like, why do you just gotta have one water company? Why do you got one tire company? You got one place to get your cheeseburgers and one place to get your haircut. And I know these trucks are big and it's a big deal, but sometimes these gold bars are heavy. We're getting garbage off the curb. We're keeping critters and rodents and all these, we're doing a gross job. And $30 a month isn't that much, really, is it? Would you pay me $7 if I had to pay one of you $7 a week to come and get all my garbage off my curb, and then I don't have to think about it again? It's not an easy job, but it is a special thing. We all kind of get in our flow. We all know how the game works. When you introduce something like organics and composting to some of these players, I don't know who all has, besides Earthbound, who has a composting truck sitting around ready to go. We don't. It is a huge expense. And I've talked to the city council in the past, some members privately, about how.
One door will have to stay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've spoken in the past about kind of what happens when you eliminate the choice, because the majority of the issues that the city council originally had were primarily because certain haulers, there was a big change, big shakeup in the market. There were certain haulers, and the main complaint then was my garbage is getting picked up, something's on the curb, something's whatever, all this stuff is happening. But when you kind of force this ordinance, or it sounds like a great idea, but when you're mandating this and saying you have to do this, there are only going to be a few people left who can actually do that. And as I'm here with Harders now because I'm very, like they came in and they saved my little tail with trash on trucks. But if it was me and trash on trucks, this would put me out of business. I would have to say, sorry, residential customers, I can't afford to buy these composting bins. I don't compost. I don't know how much they are, but a garbage can is about $57 a piece. And there's a lot of homes in this city. And you can't just drive. Anybody who runs with a garbage company knows that all these trucks do is break down. That is it. So that truck will break down. You're going to send another truck out. And then what happens if we have another conversation in a year with the city and now everybody wants to talk about the single hauler again, but we all just went and bought composting trucks. What do we do with that? And it feels like I was certainly surprised to hear that composting has been a big issue over the last year. I'm surprised to hear it's been a hot topic since 2025, because I have my nose deep in the trash, unfortunately, and I haven't heard anything about it. I have no neighbors that whine about composting. And no offense to anybody whining, I'm the biggest whiner you'll ever meet, but I don't have a lot. People are trying to keep their lights on. People are getting off work and they're hopping in an Uber to go make more money so they can have a life and do things. And I sincerely appreciate that we have someone like Earthbound around that happily does this stuff that some of these bigger haulers, like, we're really good at streamlining, getting your trash and your recycling picked up and and I don't want to say anybody's better than the other, but Earthbound's got the organics. They've got it. It's an open market. They have wonderful reviews. They're killing it. And kind of, I'm curious where the conversation continues to keep getting regurgitated about the trash, when really we have now 4 friendly haulers in town that will kind of bend over backwards for the whole community. We work here, we live here, we'll see you, and most of us do. But we'll see you in church or at the bar or at the park or somewhere. But Eau Claire is a special market, and I just really hope that the community understands that while we have this free and open market here, that's your choice. That's your power. You get to choose. And when you don't have that, that is just being pushed up to a line. What's next? Because we keep slowly getting pushed to, okay, well, we're going to talk about the single hauler. We're going to talk about this. And we keep getting scooted up to this line. Eventually, we're gonna be standing at the line and we don't have anywhere to back up. And we're gonna be forced to do things that we can't do and pull residential parts off the street and only offer commercial services, or however anybody needs to shape this out. It just deserves a lot more thought than winter of 2025 till now. And I don't know if there's a lot of other haulers in here that can speak to an ongoing compost conversation that we weren't privy to. But that's kind of where I am. I get a little fired up, so I'm sorry about that. But honestly, I just want everybody to have a choice. You don't have to choose me. You don't have, you can choose whoever you want to choose. Your brother might be working for the competitor or my arch nemesis or something like that. But they're getting paid and they're getting benefits and they can take care of their family. When you eliminate that choice, whether you realize it or not, you are eliminating a job, eliminating somebody's ability to feed their family. And that's all.
Thank you, JC. Anybody else want to chime in from industry? Any residents then? I see some residents that are active in our sustainability advisory committee. Just anybody in generally. Welcome any comments. Council members also if they have additional comments.
I'd like to speak.
Sure. Yeah.
Scott Wozniak, property owner here in Eau Claire. I have heard nothing from anyone about compost. I don't know where it's coming from. I'm aware that Earthbound offers it. If I want it, I will call them. I don't want it. I don't want the city involved in this. Leave the market alone. Let people pick what they want. I've been involved in other conversations and been to other meetings and heard people complain about the number of trucks driving around Eau Claire, the environmental impact of said trucks, the damage to the roads. Where are those people now? We're going to add more trucks. We're going to add more this. We're going to add more that. Is there any thought to the hypothetical environmental damage that will come from that? Does it outweigh the composting impact? I don't see an answer to that. I don't even see anybody discussing that. At the most, I think the best we should do here is maybe increase the education a little bit, let folks know that there is an option to do this. There is another service that provides, or another company that provides that service. Let us choose. Let us do our thing. Let these companies do their thing. Stay out of their way. Leave them alone. Leave us alone. Yes, that's all I got. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. Yes, sir.
I'm Ralph Edwards. I'm a private citizen, and I'm concerned about the environmental impact of garbage in the Eau Claire area. I've looked at the landfill here in Eau Claire. My daughter runs the landfill in Dane County, so I have some knowledge. In Dane County, they harvest the methane and sell the methane, which we do not do here. And that's the value of having private commerce out of the game. Everybody says capitalism, 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 but the landfill in Dane County is owned by the county, so they're able to make an educated choice of what's best for the environment, which is to require composting, one hauler, harvest the methane, sell the methane. That's what it is if you do have a one hauler and you have a governmental organization do the right thing. When you have private industry, all they're motivated by is profit, 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 profit. Damn the environment. But that's all they care about is profit. And so I'm much in favor of having one hauler. I'm also in favor of Mr. Werthmann's ordinance requiring composting. And even though I personally do not compost yet, and I should, I know that I should, but I do not. But if composting was required by my hauler, I would begin composting. So that would be a positive impact on the environment. And that money for the composting should be spread out through the entire community, because we're all contributing organic garbage to the landfill. So we're all contributing organic garbage to the landfill, which will increase the cost of replacing the landfill. Then we should all contribute to the cost of reducing that by paying for composting.
Thank you, Ralph. And I just want to point out the ordinance that is being introduced by council members Werthmann and Miller doesn't address whether we're a single hauler or multiple haulers in the city on the trash side. So there is a study that's ongoing. A consultant that the city has entertained is actually listening in on this call right now. And we'll incorporate some of the comments here made into their studies that will be forthcoming in August. And then the ordinance also wouldn't require you, it's my understanding, wouldn't require you to participate in composting. It would just require the haulers to give you that option.
I understand.
You could still, I just wanted to clarify those two things.
And I would also respond to that, paying for a study that we already know what the result is, it seems like a waste of city resources. We already know that having multiple haulers is possible to have a single hauler. That's a known fact. That's like asking if you have 5 dogs, something until the dog park will work with if you have 1 dog. And it's just obvious that having more haulers is going to increase the environmental damage. I don't understand you tell me that.
Yeah, and the discussion around that study will be at a different meeting than this one. But thank you for your comments. Anybody else like to participate? Yes.
Hi, I'm Kathy Campbell. I live within a half mile of the landfill, so I feel the impact of the landfill daily. And that is a big reason that urged me to get more involved and to learn more about options and the environmental impact. And I realize those are just beliefs and ideas, and they have to be grounded in fact. We need to do something differently, or people like myself and my neighbors within a mile, and probably that mile will expand. I know people further than a mile are very much impacted by that landfill. And I know that within probably 3 years, we'll be here talking about an expansion of the landfill. It doesn't end. Waste has been a problem since humans came to this earth, or even creatures. I mean, it is a problem, and we're glad that we have the services to deal with it. Most people want to out of sight, out of mind. They don't want to think about the garbage, and we're glad that somebody thinks about it, earns money from it, and removes it. But it's also a waste when it goes to the landfill. That's another waste. Even if it's composted, even if all of this goes to the landfill, and the landfill does the process of composting, it would simply be used then, our food waste, organic waste would be used for cover. That's not replenishing the earth, that's not completing the cycle that would be of greater benefit to us. To respond to something this gentleman said about, and also the haulers, I see the load on the hauler. I also understand that a more balanced approach would be requiring it of residents. I realize that would be hard on the residents to do. It would take a process. It would take much education and information. We need to look at this from a really comprehensive viewpoint. And that means involving the haulers. It means involving the legislative people that are more knowledgeable nationwide. It means involving experts. It means involving our city staff who are experts in waste disposal, wastewater treatment. It's a huge undertaking. And I'm glad that Dave has got this in mind as he goes through this process. I thank Andrew and John for being involved in trying to make a start. But it takes a community to create this problem, and it's going to take the community to change it. And it's going to take time, and it would take time. We can't do this overnight. I know in Woodbury, where my sister lived, one truck comes and picks up all the garbage. It's not 3 trucks or 2 trucks. There's not one for recycling and one for compost and one for, other, landfill waste. If they figured out a system, it would be costly and it would take time to implement, but it's time to start. And I guess I really was encouraged when I talked to people at the waste treatment plant about ways that we could do this instead of it and replenishing the earth through anaerobic digestion and land spreading. There are techniques, there are ways, but it's going to take people and time to do that. And I recognize that and respect it. And I'm glad that you're seeing that also as you go through this process. So yeah, there's a lot of education going to be needed. And yes, some might just jump right on board. But studies have found that the best way to do this to be effective in this is for everyone to be a partner, haulers and residents, not just haulers, to make it financially feasible and also accepted and utilize a system has to be in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Yes.
Can I just echo off of that, and WM, we are embracing the compost. We want to keep moving forward with that here. Like Jason said, though, we can just slow this down a little bit. I think to her point too, the more we can communicate collectively and get all sides heard, we can do this effectively and do it very well for the city of Eau Claire. Right now, we have an option, Earthbound. Jesse's point, Earthbound is doing a fantastic job and they'll continue to do that. So people that want it right now have that outlet. If we can continue just to keep talking through this as a whole community, how we can best implement this, it'll be done well and done right the first time instead of rushing into it and then finding out we missed some things, we made some mistakes, and then it gets really bumpy along the road. So that's our take. Let's do it together. But a little bit slower than we're moving at this point right now.
Sir. Anybody else? Anybody online? If you would like to comment online, if you want to raise your hand, you have an opportunity. Otherwise, I'll wrap the meeting up 8 minutes early. Usually trash meetings and compost don't end early, but I think, oh, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to address a couple things that feel would be, maybe it would be helpful to have a little more context. One of those is that I think it's important that people understand that this ordinance it doesn't require a certain kind of delivery. Like, say that, companies could provide the service in-house as they may in other communities already, but they could also contract hosting service that is with a different company. So that's one option. And there's probably other options as well. The other piece of this is I'm really encouraged to hear from different representatives of the industry that they're open to want to work on how to get there. I think one of the things that's frustrating for me is I think I sent my first email to city staff about composting in 2012 and asked about how do we get this going. And then there have been so many different touch points over those 14 years, from our comprehensive plan and our sustainability plan and our sustainability action committee and our city council having multiple work sessions on trash where this has come up. Composting has been a part of those discussions, and our sustainability action plan. Like, I honestly am hard pressed to think of this much background and foundation built than we have on composting in terms of wanting to orient policy around a very long time horizon. We usually act much faster in local government than we are on this. So I think the idea that this is fast moving and that people didn't know, like, yeah, I think that may be possible that some folks didn't know, but I can send you multiple meeting links that share composting discussions that were publicly noticed, and many of them have industry folks in those meetings as well. So I just want to be clear that this isn't completely coming out of left field. I think lastly is, we want to do this right. And so one of the things is that the city council is going to be looking at this trash study. I don't think it's predetermined at all what direction the council is going to go in. And, it could look a lot of different ways. I think there's a very high likelihood that it looks similar to how it does right now. But the idea of having compost be a part of the service, regardless of what it looks like, is something that we think is supported not only by the council, but by the community. And we've received a lot of input over the years for people saying, hey, it'd be nice if, along with trash and recycling, composting was a part of the service, however that looks. We've received so many comments that people would like that additional option. And so we're knowing that that would be something we would like as a city council, and we've talked about many times, and that it's something residents have talked to us about. We felt that there's enough support that this should be a part of whatever discussion happens on the larger trash decision that the council is going to be making over the next few months. So that's, I think, just a little bit of the background, why this is a part of it. But I think ultimately, we want to do this right. And so that's where I am incredibly thankful you all have continued to kind of share your perspective and your voices. And I think this conversation will continue. And I want to make sure you know that we did postpone the ordinance introduction. So it will not be on the meeting agenda for next week. We wanted to be sure to, at the very least, have this meeting and gather input and make final tweaks to the language if needed. And so Councilmember Miller and I requested that we hold off on introduction. So that's all I have. I just want to thank you all again for being a positive part of an ongoing 14-year discussion about how do we bring compost to a greater swath of our community.
Thank you, Councilmember Werthmann.
I have a comment.
Sure.
We've been talking about this for 14 years, and the gentleman isn't quite sure how many trash providers we have out there, 3 or 4. I don't need an answer, just point it out. And we don't have a comprehensive plan to do this after 14 years. We're just now trying to figure it out. After 14 years. 14 years.
I would remind you to.
That's fine. Have a nice day. Thank you all for your time.
Be respectful. So.
Thank you for being respectful.
All right, so we'll wrap this up.
I had one last comment, if I may. Yeah, Jason Johns again, if I may.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First, Councilman Werthmann, thank you. I wasn't aware that you and Councilman Miller had decided to postpone so that we can continue to have this discussion. So thank you for that. I truly appreciate that. I did just have a question for you then on the process that the council is looking at now as to what collection may or may not look like in the future, whether or not it remain open market or go to RFP. And whether it stays open market or RFP, if organics will be included in either of those options, depending on which way that goes. If that's the case, and this is genuinely a sincere question, then why have this discussion now and propose this ordinance on the mandate, if it very well could become a moot point based on where the council goes with this bigger question of what's trash and recyclable and or organics collection going to look like in the future.
So that's a great question. And if I could take the answer on that is when we started the conversation about trash, I think it was in the summer of 24, the beginnings of the trash study. There was a number of work sessions, and in all of those, composting was a key item. There was a number of other things, like we wanted to allow people to go to 2-week pickup if that was an option, we wanted to allow companies to provide a 2-week pickup instead of what our ordinance had before, which was a weekly pickup. There were certain items that we had kind of agreed on that were important. Some bigger questions that we weren't clear on. Councilmember Miller and I had started working on this over the winter on this ordinance, and we had the sense that there's support among the council, regardless of the outcome. There's support on the council who want to have composting. If our trash system goes to a single hauler or stays the way it is, or goes to districts, or is a city operated or a city contracted or whatever it is, we still want to have compost. And so knowing that, it made sense to us to essentially bring that piece into this. And if minor tweaks needed to be made to the ordinance in the long run, we would obviously do that if there was a change. But the fact of the matter is that we would like composting to be a part of whatever the final outcome is. And we wanted to provide enough time for it to get off the ground. And that's part of the reason that, I've wanted to move this quicker, is at the very least a half year to implementation would provide more time. If we wait until after the trash study and make a decision, then we're talking August, September for a new contract year, 27, January 1st, 27. And I think the other option would be that we wait till January 1st of 28. And, I guess that's another thought, is we would, make a longer lead time on adding composting. But, at a certain point, after many, many years are starting to pass since we even started this conversation, we just would want to keep it moving. And so that's why we're having this conversation now. And the timing is what it is.
Okay.
There's always another year. There's always another reason not to do it, but we want to do it. And so we want to bring forward something that we can actually get done.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. With the language here in this proposed ordinance, things that happened in the past, not sure what input there was from members on the ground there or other haulers on the ground. I can say from an overall chapter perspective, this is the first kind of we've seen the language. And so really our first chance to provide the input. And that's where, again, appreciate you slowing this down just a little bit and maybe looking at having this discussion as part of the bigger what's the next step, and working into that, which of course we'd be happy to involve in. So either way, the mandate, we really want to stress one thing today too, is it really should be an opt-in. Just want to leave you with that, because of the fact, again, the cost. If we have to plan for the potential that every resident in the city, we have to then build up for that infrastructure for that. And so that goes to the cost.
That's not what this ordinance does. This ordinance would treat composting like we have the bulk item pickup, which is that it's a service provided for many years, a service provided through every hauler that was not additionally charged to people, but meant that if they had a large item, they could put it out on the curb. Now, we have gone away from that large item pickup, but that was something that the city ran for many years. And we would see composting in a similar way, that it's an opt-in, not mandate on every resident.
Okay, that was, that's good to know on the clarification there then. I'll double check that. But we understand it to be a mandate. If I could ask council, and I'm not questioning it necessarily, it's just our understanding that it is a mandate. And if council could maybe help clarify that for us?
It's a mandate for the haulers to provide the service, but it's not a mandate for the individual residents to take advantage of that service provided by the haulers.
Right. So our interpretation of that is if we are mandated to provide the service to all residents, we have to plan accordingly to provide the service to all residents. We don't know who's going to necessarily use it, right? And so we have to plan as if everybody's going to use it. And that's where you get the potential, could be double, triple cost, which then we have to spread around every single resident and business. It's not just individual direct opt-in contract directly with the hauler and arrange the pricing that way. And so we do see that as a definite mandate requiring service pickup for potentially everybody in the city.
Yep, I think we all understand each other on that point.
Okay.
We do have an opt-in service right now called Werthmann.
So I don't know if people online heard that, but the Harders,
I'm just saying,
if you want it,
no, I'm saying
okay.
there is an opt-in already existing. It's called Earthbound. They're already here. Public already has the option to opt in if they want.
To use the free market.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And then I promise I'm done after this last question. It's just about next steps. We talked about, the councilman's mentioned postponement. Again, thank you for that and for the chance to continue to talk about this. And genuinely, we are ready to sit down, talk about it, provide the input, and hopefully get to a great outcome. But what would that might be? Do we have any dates? Idea ballpark? What we're looking at?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Handle that. I was gonna say, typically the procedure that we have is it's a 2-week process for once the ordinance is introduced, and then 2 weeks later it's typically voted on. Whether or not it'll be introduced in 2 weeks from now at the July 28th meeting for the first reading, that'll be something that I'll have to touch base with the ordinance sponsors to see what their level of comfort is. That would be the soonest that it would be introduced, would be on July 28th, and then it would be voted on by city council 2 weeks after that. But yeah, I can't say for sure without sitting down and having a discussion with our council members. Are we looking at going to 2 weeks? Are we looking at a month? That'll be something that we'll have to work out with them and our legal review. So.
All right. Well, we respectfully request, Councilman Werthmann, then that we perhaps go a little more than 2 weeks to allow us the opportunity to sit down and have that hopefully very productive beginning of discussions. So.
Do we have one last comment?
Comment? Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Ben Swassel, resident of the city of Eau Claire. When the councilmen were drafting this ordinance, did they have a meeting with all of the current haulers to discuss how the ordinance would be written? Is that something that happened, or is that even possible? I don't understand the logistics of all of this. So I'm just asking, when they began to write this ordinance up, did they haulers involved in that conversation?
That's a great question. So the way that we work this is through a committee of the council. And that was a sustainability advisory committee, which has had this on its work plan for the last decade. And as we worked through draft after draft, I think we had at least minimum four hearings of the committee. And at least I would say, well, for sure, every hauler in this community, the main haulers have attended different meetings of that committee to provide feedback, some of it positive, some of it concerned, but over the half year that we've been drafting it. So that's an excellent question. And the answer is yes. We've had multiple different opportunities to hash this out in a public setting with the local representatives at various meetings.
In those meetings are public meetings also, so residents are able to attend those as well as council members.
So, but their haulers were not actually, we didn't actually reach out to us and say, come check out this committee meeting.
It is,
I think that's what Ben was asking.
oh.
And no, that, and no.
In full transparency, we don't send individual invites out to all of our plan commissions, waterways and parks, sustainability advisory. We rely on the public notice process for word to get out for that. So.
And I do understand that. I just, it probably would, and I get it, it's hard. You guys are dealing with a lot. I get it, trust me. I just am on the, it would have been nice to actually reach out to the haulers that are servicing the city and go, let's be a part of this conversation instead of just relying. Public notices are great, but we all lead really busy lives that would, I feel it maybe would have been beneficial, maybe to just reach out to the haulers and go, we are going to start discussing this. You are a hauler in the city of Eau Claire. Please attend these meetings if you can.
Well, it makes sense that that's what today is too. Have all the haulers engaged on the call today. So, it's in advance of an ordinance being introduced. So, you know, plus we have industry, national industry representation on here. So in a sense, with the public process with sustainability advisory, that's a opportunity for public input as well as a more personalized meeting like we've had. We've had several of these with around the trash issue. They just haven't been publicly noticed because it was more of an industry and staff meeting without a larger group. So, all right. Well, I lost the 8 minutes under goal for this, but I think it was a good last discussion. But I just want to thank everybody for their politeness and professionalism. I think my takeaway, if I were to talk to somebody that didn't attend, that I think everybody shares the same concern that we want to keep organics out of the landfills. We want to work together for the environment. We're all seeking the same goal. And how you get there and what the underlying role of government is probably where the details have to be worked out for this. And I would stress that when these are scheduled with the city council, even though Councilmember Werthmann and Miller are sponsoring the ordinance, we have 11 council members. They all have equal weight. So they all have about 9% of the pull with this. And I know they are very interested in hearing all sides and having as much information to make an educated decision. So, and they do rely on feedback from the public. So I would encourage people, in advance of those meetings or at the public hearings to make sure that your thoughts and questions and opinions are known for this, because it does matter. And I will stress that in public hearing meetings, the decorum is also very important, so just remember to be polite and share your opinions with council, even if you disagree with some of your other comments. That comment's always more productive if people are civil with this. So, and I will work with Tess Morgan to get this recapped, and I'm assuming that there's probably some rudimentary AI notes that can be generated from this, but we'll have whatever information we can have out of this meeting posted online. So if people want to review it in advance of the council meetings, and then I would anticipate, even though it's a council member introduced, if possible, we can include a link to this in the introduction materials that go into the packets. So if people are reading the packets, they can click on a meeting and get additional backstory on that. So, thank you, everybody, for sharing some time on a beautiful day.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.